the dead of the night in Tehran in 2020, a convoy moves through the Iranian capital under the cover of darkness. Inside one of the vehicles sits Mohsen, Iran's top nuclear scientist, a man who had spent decades building what many consider the most dangerous weapons program in the Middle East. Within minutes, he would be gone. Not from a bomb, not from a traditional strike, but from a remote controlled weapon so sophisticated that it could distinguish his face from his bodyguards sitting inches away. This wasn't the work of Iran's enemies acting alone. This was the signature of an organization that has redefined modern intelligence warfare, an organization that operates in the shadows of global politics, yet shapes the fate of nations. But here's what most people don't know: Mossad doesn't act alone. Behind every covert operation, every strategic move that makes headlines around the world, there's a web of political power, international alliances, decision makers who remain invisible to the public eye. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the real power behind Mossad, and what we discover might change how you see modern geopolitics forever. When most people think of Mossad, they imagine lone operatives carrying out impossible missions in foreign capitals. Hollywood has fed us this narrative for decades, but the reality is far more complex and far more revealing about how power truly operates in the modern world. Mossad doesn't choose its own targets, it doesn't decide which operations to launch or which threats to neutralize. Every major covert action originates from a small group of individuals who hold the real power in Israel's security apparatus. At the apex sits the Prime Minister, not just as a ceremonial head of state, but as the ultimate decision maker for Israel's most sensitive operations. When Benjamin Netanyahu was in power, intelligence sources revealed that he personally approved every high stakes operation beyond Israel's border, every strategic move against Iran's nuclear program, every covert action in Syria, every neutralization of key targets across the Middle East. The Prime Minister doesn't operate in isolation. Surrounding this position is what insiders call the kitchen cabinet, an informal group of security chiefs, political advisors, and intelligence veterans who shape Israel's shadow war strategy. The defense minister holds enormous sway over Mossad's operations. Unlike other countries where intelligence agencies report directly to the civilian leadership, Israel's unique security structure means that military and intelligence operations are deeply intertwined. The defense minister can greenlight operations that blur the line between traditional espionage and military action. Then there's a national security advisor, perhaps the most influential person most people have ever heard of. The individual coordinates between Mossad, military intelligence, internal security, and foreign policy. They're the one who decides how intelligence operations align with Israel's broader strategic goals. Consider the 2018 operation that extracted Iran's nuclear archive from a warehouse in Tehran. This wasn't just a Mossad operation, it was a coordinated effort that required approval from the highest levels of government, coordination with international allies, and careful timing with diplomatic initiatives. The decision makers behind this operation weren't just thinking about intelligence gathering. They were orchestrating complex political strategy that would influence international negotiations, justify military preparations, and shift global opinion about Iran's nuclear ambitions. What makes this power structure so effective and so concerning to Israel's adversaries is how quickly it can move from decision to action. While other countries debate in committees and navigate bureaucratic layers, Israel's concentrated decision-making apparatus can authorize and execute operations within days or even hours. But this concentration of power raises critical questions about accountability and oversight. Unlike democratic countries with robust intelligence oversight committees, Israel's system operates with minimal external scrutiny. The real power behind Mossad's operations remains largely hidden from public view, protected by classification levels that can last decades. Here's where the story gets more complicated and more revealing about the true nature of modern intelligence warfare. Mossad doesn't operate in isolation from the global power structures. Its most significant operations are deeply connected to American intelligence and foreign policy objectives. The relationship between Mossad and CIA represents one of the most consequential partnerships in modern intelligence history, but it's not an equal partnership. The dynamics of this relationship reveal who really holds influence over Israel's shadow wars. Intelligence sharing between the two agencies flows in both directions, but the nature of this exchange tells us everything about power dynamics. Israel provides United States with human intelligence that American agencies simply cannot obtain in the Middle East. Mossad's network of sources inside Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and across the Arab gives American policymakers insights they desperately need. In return, the United States provides Israel with technological capabilities, satellite intelligence, and most importantly, political cover for operations that might otherwise face international condemnation. Consider the cyber warfare campaign against Iran's nuclear program, known publicly as Stuxnet. This wasn't purely an Israeli operation. Intelligence sources have confirmed that it was a joint Israeli American project developed in collaboration between Mossad and the NSA. The decision to deploy this cyber weapon required approval from both Israel leadership and the American president. But here's what's fascinating about this partnership. American influence over Israeli intelligence operations is far more subtle and complex than most people realize. The United States doesn't directly control Mossad's operations, but American priorities and concerns significantly shape Israelis' decision making. When American intelligence officials express concerns about certain operations, particularly those that might complicate broader US foreign policy objectives, Israeli leadership listens carefully. Not because they are subordinate to American interests, but maintaining American support is crucial to Israel's long-term security strategy. This dynamic played out clearly during the Obama administration's nuclear negotiations with Iran. Israeli leadership strongly opposed the diplomatic approach, preferring more aggressive covert action to prevent Iran from developing nuclear capabilities. The tension between American diplomatic priorities and Israeli security concerns created a complex stance of cooperation and conflict within the intelligence relationship. American officials had to balance their support for Israeli intelligence operations with their diplomatic objectives. Israeli officials had to calibrate their operations to avoid undermining American policy while still protecting what they saw existential security interests. The Trump administration shifted this dynamic significantly, with American policy more aligned with Israel's concerns about Iran. Mossad operations received more explicit American support. The neutralization of Iranian nuclear scientist Mohsen, for example, occurred during a period when American and Israeli objectives were closely aligned. But this relationship also reveals something crucial about the accountability in modern intelligence warfare. When operations are joint efforts between allied intelligence agencies, who bears responsibility for the consequences? When Mossad conducts operations with American intelligence support, are American leaders equally accountable for the results? These questions became even more complex when we consider the role of private contractors, technology companies, and weapon manufacturers who provide capabilities to both agencies. The ecosystem of modern intelligence operations extends far beyond government agencies into a web of private sector relationships that operate largely outside public scrutiny. The most fascinating aspect of Mossad's power structure isn't found in government buildings or official organizational charts. It's hidden in a network of former intelligence officers, defense contractors, technology companies, and influential individuals who maintain significant influence over Israelis' intelligence operations long after they have left official positions. This shadow network represents a form of power that transcends traditional government structures. Former Mossad directors don't simply retire, they often move into positions within defense companies, consulting firms, and technology enterprises that continue to support active intelligence operations. Consider the career path for former Mossad chiefs. After leaving their official positions, many become executives at companies that developed surveillance technology, cyber warfare capabilities, and advanced weapon systems. Others establish consulting firms that advise governments and corporations on security matters. Some move into academic positions where they shape the next generation of intelligence professionals. But their influence doesn't end with their official careers. Through informal networks, private communications, and consulting relationships, these former officials continue to shape current operations and strategic decisions. The technology sector plays a particularly crucial role in this shadow network. Israeli companies have become global leaders in surveillance technology, cyber warfare capabilities, and intelligence analysis tools. Many of these companies were founded by former Mossad operatives or maintain close relationships with active intelligence personnel. These companies don't just provide tools to Israeli intelligence, they sell their capabilities to governments and organizations around the world. This creates a web of influence that extends Israeli intelligence capabilities far beyond its official operations. As we watch headlines about Iranian nuclear facilities experiencing mysterious technical problems, as we read about cyber attacks disrupting military communication networks, as we learn about precision strikes against weapons, convoys in remote locations, we're witnessing the results of decision making processes that remain largely hidden from public view. The power behind Mossad represents both the capabilities and the dangers of modern intelligence warfare. It demonstrates what nations can achieve when they organize their security apparatus effectively. But it also reveals how quickly regional tensions can escalate when intelligence operations become the primary tool of foreign policy. The question isn't whether intelligence agencies like Mossad will continue to play central roles in international security. They clearly will. The question is whether the power structures that control these agencies will evolve to address the challenges of an increasingly complex and dangerous world. The hidden world of intelligence operations shapes global events in ways that most people never fully understand. If this exploration of the real power behind Mossad has given you new insights on how modern geopolitics networks actually work, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're committed to pulling back the curtain on forces that shape our world, going beyond headlines to reveal the deeper structures of power and influence that determine global events. Hit the notification bell because understanding these hidden dynamics isn't just fascinating, it's essential for making sense of the news, the conflicts, and the strategic decisions that affect all our lives. And let us know in the comments what aspect of intelligence power structures do you find most concerning or most necessary for global security. In our next deep dive, we are going inside the most secretive and elite unit within Mossad itself, exploring the training, the mindset, the impossible missions that have made Israel's intelligence service legendary around the world. You won't want to miss this comprehensive look at how the world's most effective intelligence operatives are created and deployed.